Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back one last time to the 2KU Weekly Podcast. This, unfortunately, is our last episode of the 2023 season, but we still have a lot of fun to have here. I'm Type Joey 101 here on January 14th, here with my co hosts Danny V and Pig Bear. What a year it has been for college football. We saw so many ups and downs, so many twists and turns. Basically, an entire upheaval one week after another. What were your guys' favorite moments of the year, Danny?
It's kind of hard to pick, but I think one of them has to be my team finishing it off with the only team without a loss.
We'll touch more on that in detail in a moment. Pig Bear, what do you think your favorite moment of the year for the season was?
Um, the Pig Bear Bowl. That was my favorite moment. The Pig Bear Bowl. That and just it being a good year. I did like that Georgia LSU game. That was cool.
You were on call for that one. We don't have a lot of headlines, but we do have our two national champions and some big changes coming next season, as well as some of them that are just coming in now. Let us one more time hand it off to Danny V to read the headlines.
First off, both these games were surprising New Orleans. So New Orleans was the whole national champions this year, but Florida captures their sixth national title, their third in the current era, with a last-second touchdown over number one Penn State, causing the Nittany Lions to ruin their perfect season. It wasn't the only team to win, as UCF, the University of Central Florida, the Knights, finishes undefeated and claims a national championship over Mississippi State by winning the Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
Next up, we got some conference realignment news.
We'll talk about that in just a moment.
I think another headline I wanted to talk about here is talking about the Fiesta Bowl, as
Yes.
New Mexico State makes a tremendous comeback and beats Baylor in the last quarter of the game.
All right. Before we talk about other headlines, I want to mention some breaking news that came in just last night. A couple big changes to the conference schedule, or to conferences, namely Georgia Tech. After threatening to leave the SEC last season, during the last year around the time there was that big drama with South Carolina, they are finally making it a reality. Officially, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets will be playing in the ACC in 2024. This is one of the fastest conference moves we've seen, and one that truly came out of nowhere. Ultimately, there was some flashes about it, but we had thought that everything was patched up between the SEC and Georgia Tech, and I think this move and how quickly it was made after the season ended says otherwise. Danny, your thought on that?
Yeah, it was a big shocker to see Georgia Tech just up and dip out of the SEC, especially when they were adding in Arkansas and to help boost up the conference. But now Georgia Tech thought maybe their grass is greener at the other side, in this case by the Atlantic coast.
Pig Bear, your thought on this move?
Who is the true Southern power now? SEC. Kid. Great move for the ACC, adding a really good program in Georgia Tech, and just interesting to see where this goes from here.
There's going to be quite a bit of drama that will likely unfold between the SEC and Georgia Tech. There are currently legal actions that are allegedly bubbling under between the two parties, much like how South Carolina had last season. That's still ongoing. For those wondering, the sanctions against the University of Alabama ended with the season ending. They will be eligible for the conference championship next year. Another move that happened, definitely much lower profile, but for 2024, the WAC will be boosted up to 14 with Southern Utah and Utah Tech joining the fold. We also want to mention UTRGV, who slipped under the radar, adding a football program in 2024, will be jumping straight to the WAC next season in their first football playing year. Southern Utah, Utah Tech, both eligible for conference championships that year. UTRGV will enter their one ineligibility year as they transfer up. It's a very interesting scenario, but that'll get the WAC to 14 next season. We'll talk a little briefly about how the conferences will look like
Two
in
more teams.
2024.
Two more teams are joining the WAC as well.
There are other teams joining the WAC
as Southern Utah and
we
Utah
already mentioned
Tech.
that. We did already mention that. They joined from the Missouri Valley. We'll talk more about the conferences and how they'll look next season at the end of the show. Danny, your thoughts on the WAC's move here?
Really good for the WAC. Good job on them let's face it, from them being gutted of losing some of their big programs like San Jose State, Fresno State, Nevada, very big programs of there. It's just losing them. But they decided to replace them with a bunch of programs in Texas, such as Sam Houston and Stephen F. Austin, which are both really good teams in the Southland. Tarleton, who a bit questionable, but
North Texas
and
as
also
well.
an upstarter program of UTRGV and also 2 Utah schools to help bridge the gap between those schools out east and the Pacific schools. Great ad for them.
Ultimately, the common perspective was that teams like New Mexico State, Hawaii, and Idaho were going to end up running away with this conference with these other schools being added. But I think with so many here, the gap is going to end up closing, and potentially we could see some teams we didn't expect to compete sticking around. Potentially that CSU Fullerton team has some upside. Regardless, we're going to now go very briefly over the bowls. There's a lot of games, so we have to speed through them. We'll start with the Celebration Bowl. Savannah State shutting out the Southern Jaguars in Atlanta to kick off bowl season 20-0. SSU getting the win. They would take that win and ride all the way to Frisco, becoming the first HBCU to make the FCS semifinals. They played pretty well, but they would end up losing to Sacramento State. Onto the Cure Bowl. James Madison had a come from behind win in overtime over Northern Iowa 34-28. Onto the Eagle Bank Bowl. Jacksonville State making a statement in their first game in the first bowl game they've played. 45-31, the highest scoring bowl game of the season. That went from Audi Field in Washington to the New Mexico Bowl. Temple finishes with a 6th win, 24-17 over Utah State. Onto the New Orleans Bowl, which saw Troy winning 23-14 over McNeese State. And we wrapped that day with Las Vegas Bowl. Boise State beating Cal 42-16. Danny, your thoughts on day one of bowls?
Yeah, it was a fun little matchup of bowl games. I mean, a lot of good, interesting matchups and a lot of great stories that happened, including the first ever bowl games for the Americans. So good job on the American for getting a good bowl games.
Pig Bear, your thoughts on the first day?
The day goes, sorry.
What?
Helmet Singer of the day goes to Savannah State. Easy. The Tigers, yeah. San State Tigers, yeah, just getting the job done. Celebration Bowl, shutting them out. Just helmet Singer of the day. Go Tigers.
Moving on to the weekday, starting December 18th with the Fenway Bowl. Colgate winning a close one against Princeton, 21-20 in Boston. Following that up, the Humanitarian Bowl saw Northern Illinois capture a win over San Jose State, 28-26. Any big takeaways from these games, Danny?
Not too much. I mean, still also some really good teams. I mean, a team like Northern Illinois was really lucky to get out of there, and Colgate got themselves a great win as their final game is an independent.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, good job, Colgate. Toothpaste Warriors getting the job done.
All right, now on
That's
to that.
every joke in sports.
Now on to December 19th, we had 3 bowls that day, starting with a battle of teams from Arkansas in the Bahamas. The Bahamas Bowl, saw the Bahamas Bowl, saw Arkansas State get a win over Arkansas 26-21. They dominated and prevented an Ark State comeback. They're going to the SEC next season. Arkansas singular, by me. Meanwhile, Nevada woke up feeling the cheesiest in Tulsa, taking the win over Abilene Christian 27-3. Up next that day, wrapping up the Camellia Bowl, the oldest bowl featuring non-power teams, has Old Dominion in their first appearance in the bowls, nabbing a win 38-10 over South Alabama. Danny, your thoughts on December 19th?
Uh, well, it was a fun matchup in the Bahamas, at least. I mean, I really wish they had this game in Arkansas as like the true state championship, but it was still a fun matchup.
Call it a neutral site for the state championship. Pig Bear?
You know, these bowl selections they make me a little mad when you see stuff like this. And there's another bowl game which was on CASN down the line, but they make me a little mad. But I understand why. Nassau, Arkansas.
We had two bowl games on we had two bowl games on the 20th. The Frisco Bowl saw Southeastern Louisiana get a win over the favorite South Dakota State 38-17. And the famous Idaho Potato Bowl from Boise, New Mexico, got a convincing win over Akron 38-17. Your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, it was a good game. So a lot of good matchups.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, just a bunch of good games. Two good games, not a bunch of.
December 21st starting.
It's to a bunch.
What was that?
No. Two, would that count as a bunch?
I think a bunch starts with at least 4.
Okay.
I think 2, 3, that's a few.
Okay.
Maybe like 6 is a couple. Whatever, that's unimportant. On the 21st, we started with the Boca Bowl. Boca Raton, Western Michigan got a win over Louisiana 20-17. Followed by a 3 overtime classic in the Hall of Fame Bowl, South Dakota beating Eastern Kentucky 36-34. And we wrapped in the Seattle Bowl, Texas State getting it done against Chicago 31-10. Your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, it was a great matchup, and Eastern Kentucky really showed out the play. So sad they didn't win, but they at least put up a great effort.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, we're for Chicago. Their last game before going to the Big Ten was played in Seattle, Washington, which is not Big Ten country.
I can testify. Only one game on the 22nd. That was the Fight Hunger Bowl, which saw Cal State Fullerton beating Minnesota in a low-scoring matchup 14-7. Your thoughts?
It was a good matchup. A good showing for CSU Fullerton in their first bowl game in a while.
Pig Bear?
Hunger was fought, and a good fought game was fought. Good fought was fought.
It was fought. 2 games on the 23rd. The Myrtle Beach Bowl had UTEP beating North Texas 17-10 in Conway. The Beef O'Brady's Bowl saw Toledo walk away with a narrowly escaping win as Kennesaw State's attempt to tie the game ended up sailing wide left. Or wide right, rather, Danny.
Yeah, it was a great little matchup for these games. I mean, not much I could really say.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, just seeing these games go down in the coastal cities, the Coast Bowl Day. But no, good job for the winners.
We only had one more before Christmas, December 24th, the Hawaii Bowl. Hawaii, 38-3, absolutely dominating UAB in their return to the home stadium. Danny?
Which of course was the Hawaii Bowl. You can never go wrong with the Hawaii Bowl. I mean, besides Hawaii just giving a whooping to UAB, but a great matchup, a pre-Christmas gift.
Pig Bear?
They got an early Christmas gift in Hawaii, so just good for the Rainbow Warriors.
This will be the last time played in the original Aloha Stadium. The new one will be complete by next season. As for
Aloha Stadium.
we took Christmas Day off, and now we actually have a bunch of games to talk about again on December 26th. This is exactly when I got sick, by the way. I was unable to call every game up until the 31st. But because of the sickness that still lingers to this day. But going over it, 21-17, Rutgers getting a win over Indiana in the Military Bowl kicked us off, followed by the Independence Bowl, which I had to call early because the game froze. Regardless, Vanderbilt got a 28-14 win over Stephen F. Austin.
Vanderbilt.
This is the first time we've ever had to call a game early.
Yeah.
Music City Bowl, rife with controversy. Maryland had none of it. They beat Georgia 17-14. On the Insight Bowl, we had a great game as Colorado in overtime beat the Fighting Irish 35-33, and we wrapped the day with the Texas Bowl as Oklahoma took it to Louisville 31-14. Danny?
Yeah, it was a great matchup this weekend, especially the Inside Bowl. That one was really fun to watch.
Pig Bear?
Georgia fell off. Sorry. Just
Georgia
good
did
job,
fall off.
Maryland, for winning controversy-filled Music City Bowl.
On to the 27th, starting at MetLife, the Garden State Bowl saw William and Mary upsetting Columbia 20-17. The First Responder Bowl had Nebraska walking away with a 13-10 victory over UConn. Down in the Miami Beach Bowl, the first ever bowl win for Liberty, who beat Georgia Southern 30-7. And we wrapped with the Continental Tire Bowl as Coastal Carolina proved that they deserved to be there over an at-large bid in Illinois 17-3. Danny?
Yeah, it was a great matchup. I really did find this matchup a lot of fun. Love the new logo for the Miami Beach Bowl. And yeah, it was a great matchup.
Designed by Danny, I believe, right? You designed that one?
Yep.
Pig Bear, your thoughts?
Shout out to the Old Dominion, Virginia, William and Mary, and Liberty both getting wins. I know, saying Old Dominion first.
Old Dominion also got a win.
Yeah, Old Dominion also got a win. Yeah.
Jumping ahead to the Belk Bowl. That was the one game I did try to call. Didn't do great at it, but Dave Show beating Georgia Tech 14-7 in their final game as an independent.
ACC Coastal matchup.
True. Actually,
Yeah.
we didn't mention divisions. We'll talk about those in a little bit. As for the International Bowl, Syracuse got a 28-21 win over Purdue. The Pinstripe Bowl had UMass capturing a win after a difficult season over Harvard 19-7. The Little Caesars Pizza Bowl had Eastern Michigan riding to their first 11-win season with a 20-7 win over the Iowa Hawkeyes in Ford Field. And we wrapped with the Copper Bowl as Pacific ends a lengthy bowl drought with a victory over Hardin-Simmons 17-14. Danny?
Yeah, it was a great week of games. I really did find a lot of fun. I can't wait to see Georgia Tech Dave Show as a future game in the ACC soon.
Pig Bear?
Shout out to the eastern part of the mitten for getting their win. Go Eagles.
It's more the southern part.
Southern, my bad.
It's not that far out east. It's about as far out east as Michigan is.
Okay.
Regardless, there were no games on the 29th. We jumped straight to the 30th. The Liberty Bowl had a ranked Pitt get a win over Texas Tech 14-13. The Ticket City Bowl saw Sam Houston beating Cincinnati 21-14. The Emerald Bowl had a great overtime matchup as UCLA beat UTSA in 3 overtimes 27-24. The Poinsettia Bowl had Utah running away with it 24-3 over Michigan State. And we wrapped with the LA Bowl as Kansas State beat Fresno State 31-17. Danny?
It was a good matchup. I felt sad for Texas Tech losing by 1 point, but it is the game of football, at least.
Pig Bear?
I wonder where I can buy tickets for the Ticket City Bowl.
You can get them on SeatGeek, actually.
Ah, yeah.
All right, New Year's Eve. Started with the Armed Forces Bowl. SMU capturing their, I believe, 11th win on the year over Army 35-10. And then we had our first BCS Bowl in the Cotton Bowl as Oklahoma State narrowly avoids an upset, beating TCU 22-21. In the Cactus Bowl, Southern Illinois finishes their first 12-win season since 2013, 17-3 over San Diego State. Onto the Alamo Bowl, Kansas controlled the game over Arizona State 28-10. And we wrapped the day with another dominant win by Stanford as number 24 in the country, beating number 23 BYU in the Holiday Bowl. Danny?
Yeah, it was a great matchup. I really enjoyed the Holiday Bowl. That was a really fun one to watch.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, a really good match from the Holiday Bowl there.
On to New Year's Day. Duke getting an upset win over Michigan in the Gator Bowl to kick us off, 28-21. The Outback Bowl. If you notice throughout all of this, we had 7 Big Ten teams play at that point. or I believe 9 Big Ten teams play at that point. All of them lost. The first Big Ten win would come in the Outback Bowl as Ohio State beat Tulane 17-13. Onto the Citrus Bowl, Auburn beating Wake Forest 35-23 in Orlando. Then 2 more BCS bowls to fill out the spots. The Rose Bowl, Wisconsin with a close upset win, ending the longest drought of the Rose Bowl in the Big Ten, 17-14 over number 3 Oregon, a big upset win. And we capped the day with the Sugar Bowl as UCF beat Mississippi State 17-14 in Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Danny?
UCF Knights. UCF, let's go Knights.
You had your UCF and your Wisconsin winning the same day.
Yeah, that's an amazing day for me, at least.
Pig Bear?
Glad that Gator Bowl was on January 1st, like it's supposed to be, not on December 29th. Gator Bowl committee. I enjoyed the game though.
All right. We wrapped the full days of games with the Sun Bowl starting on January 2nd. North Carolina upsetting USC 38-35 in El Paso. Moving on to the Capital One Bowl, the first of 2 Pig Bear Bowls as Clemson beats West Virginia 41-31. Now on to more BCS action. Virginia Tech narrowly escaping a comeback loss as they get the win 34-29 over a hungry Washington State. On to the Orange Bowl. It wasn't even close. 24-8. Boston College dominating Virginia. And we wrapped with the Fiesta Bowl, a much closer game, one that went right down to the wire. New Mexico State took a late lead with 50 seconds to go and wouldn't let it go for the rest of the game. 35-31, New Mexico State beats the Baylor Bears. Danny?
Great job, New Mexico State, because I don't know if people actually watch the game or not, but at one point, I believe Baylor was actually leading like 31-3 at one point, and then New Mexico State just came back.
An incredible comeback for the Aggies. Pig Bear?
Go Aggies, but 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. CLEMSONTIGERS. Fight, Tigers, fight, Tigers, fight, fight, fight.
That gets Clemson to a 10th win on the year. We only had one game on January 4th, so
Unlike in real life.
I'll touch on it real quick. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, an emergency bowl. Louisiana Tech and Miami, Ohio needed a spot to go, so we quickly put something together for them. that being this bowl game in Orlando from Dave Show's Seminole Field. It saw Louisiana Tech getting a win over Miami 24-17. Jumping ahead to January 6th for that weekend, the famous Toastery Bowl saw Ole Miss and Washington and Lee play each other, but 2 other teams who were in an emergency bowl game situation from Charlotte, North Carolina. Ole Miss winning this classic Southern rivalry, this classic Southern Conference game against the Generals, who are ending a long bowl drought. 31-21, the final score there. The Dollar General Bowl, the second of 2 Pig Bear Bowls, saw Appalachian State beating the American Conference champions 24-17. That other team, of course, being the Charlotte 49ers. Onto the BBVA Compass Bowl from Birmingham, Alabama. The Central Michigan Chippewas getting a 24-14 win over Houston in Birmingham. And we wrap in the GoDaddy.com Bowl that day as Kent State upsets Florida Atlantic 10-7 in Mobile. Your thoughts on that week? On those 2 games?
Dreams really do come true. It was a really fun weekend for the bowl games, at least.
Couldn't say it better myself. Pig Bear?
You stole my line, but yeah, dreams really do come true. And Toast really does come true.
A little bit of an in-joke for y'all watching. Quickly touching on the games on January 7th, starting with the conference championship, or the national championships, the D3 championship, saw Hope beating Wisconsin Whitewater 9-7 to capture their first ever Division III title. Meanwhile, the second national championship for Pittsburgh State in Division II, 31-21, the Gorillas beat the Valdosta State Blazers in New Mexico. The Papa John's Bowl takes us back to the FBS level. A big comeback, one of the greatest touchdowns I've ever seen, and an overtime win gave Buffalo a 37-31 victory over Furman. And then to the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, where North Dakota State held the game all day over a favored Idaho squad. We'll read off one more on January 13th before we get your guys' thoughts. The FCS Championship. Sacramento State gets a 35-24 win over Eastern Washington in Frisco. Eastern Washington playing their final game in the FCS before they return to the FBS after missing a full season. All right, Danny, your thoughts on this slate?
It was a fun slate, and I'm proud for all these different national champions right here in their respective divisions.
Pig Bear?
You know, they said during the Pop Star Bowl, but Pittsburgh State, this is a Pittsburgh State certified moment.
Truly. We have one more game to discuss. And truly, we've saved the best for last. What might be the game of the year. Penn State, Florida went down to the wire, a back and forth affair. Last seconds, they ran the clock out. We were all panicking. You got to call a timeout. You're going to lose this game. You got to call a timeout. They don't call the timeout until there's 5 seconds left. They're back inside their own territory. Backup quarterback Kenneth Latimer came in for Tyson Benjamin, who left the game with a concussion. Latimer was balling out all day, but now they needed him more than ever. When it was all on the line, throws it up and finds a man wide open. And then it was just a pursuit. They couldn't bring him down in time. He crosses the line, and it's a touchdown, Florida ball game from New Orleans. The final score from that, 20-15. Florida are your 2023 2KU champions. Danny, your thoughts on that game?
It was a fun national championship and game, and ending no one expected at all, but here we are.
Pig Bear?
What a way for the Florida Gators to win. Who would have thought this at the beginning of the year? Seriously, who would have thought Florida would win the national championship? But just got a good job to them.
Both of these teams, both Florida and Penn State, didn't even make bowls last season.
Heck, who would have thought Penn State would have been there? Like, Florida, yeah, you can maybe see it being a very dark horse. Not even. Like, Florida, no shot. But, like, Penn State, seriously, are you kidding me?
Penn State is a great rebuilding team. They're one of the favorites we'll talk about to make the national championship next season. Florida had a disastrous end to their 2021 season, which carried over to a really bad 22. Ryan Dukes, their head coach, was on the hot seat entering this season, and then his squad just balled out all year. Bar a loss to Vanderbilt, they rolled through the season, beat Tulane to win the SEC, and made it to the Natty, knocking off the last undefeated power team in the process. And now we're going to take you through the top 25, our final top 25 of the season. We're going to start from number 25 and work our way up this week. Starting here at number 25, we have the Kansas Jayhawks out of the Big 12. Following them up, Southern Illinois, for only the second time in program history, making it into the final top 25. Number 23, Mississippi State. From number 22 into the top 25 is Old Dominion. And following that up, number 21, West Virginia. Jumping up to number 20, Washington State, followed by number 19, Stanford. Number 18, the ACC's champion, Virginia. Number 17, Pittsburgh. Number 16, the Mountain West champion, TCU. Followed by number 15, the Mountain West runner-up, Utah. Number 14 is Michigan. Number 13, Baylor. Number 12 is Clemson. And number 11 is Boise State. And now we're into the top 10. For the first time in program history, New Mexico State is in the top 10. WAC champions and Fiesta Bowl champions. Following them up, number 9 is Duke, who just had their first ever 11-win season and look to be potentially the best team, one of the best teams in the ACC. Number 8, Big Ten champs Wisconsin, or Big Ten runner-up Wisconsin, who won the Rose Bowl over number 7, who is Oregon. They got just an edge above them. Number 6, Virginia Tech, the best team in the ACC, not counting who played in the ACC title game. And now we're into the top 5. Number 5 is Boston College, Big East champs, making their first ever appearance in a top 5, or their first top 5 appearance since they won a share of the national championship back in the 90s. Number 4 is Oklahoma State. Big 12 runners-up. Once again, just short of the national championship line. Number 3, Penn State. The Nittany Lions fell 2 spots after their loss in the Natty to number 2, who is actually going to be Florida. The Gators are your national champions in the game by the title game standards, but the polls lean differently. Number 1 on our final poll is UCF. The Knights are the undefeated Conference USA champions, won the Sugar Bowl, and are the last unbeaten team in the nation. And by that virtue, for the first time since 2002, and only the second time we've ever done this in the BCS era, we have 2 national champions officially. The Florida Gators and UCF Knights are both officially to be enshrined as national champions. Danny, your thoughts here on the top 25?
Let's go, Knights, number 1 above the rest, undefeated national champions.
All right, Pig Bear?
Wow. I propose we have a playoff game for the championship. Playing in what's neutral? Some high school between the two. Kidding.
Probably Tampa.
Tampa, yeah.
I thought Tampa was south of Orlando.
Tampa is
It's more west.
southwest, but I mean it's far enough from Gainesville.
It's both roughly around the same time to get there because of traffic.
Awesome.
Yeah, plus you get on 75 from Gainesville. So playoff game coming to Tampa next week.
I don't know about that. We don't have an others receiving votes, but
Pittsburgh.
oh, we do have an
Sorry.
others receiving votes. It was off screen. Sorry about that. Others receiving votes are SMU, Jacksonville State, Kansas State, Auburn, Liberty, Eastern Michigan, BYU, App State, Coastal Carolina, Stephen F. Austin, Georgia Tech, Alabama, Northern Illinois, and Louisville.
Pittsburgh State, 1 vote. I'm kidding.
Maybe. Now we're gonna move on here to our ultimate rankings. We'll likely post those in headlines or somewhere, the full list. But we're just going to look at the ultimate rankings top. Some of the more interesting teams in the ultimate rankings. We're going to start looking on the final slide, namely to our top 20. At number 20 will be Northern Illinois, ahead of teams like Clemson, interestingly enough, who sits at 21. Actually, before we keep going further, Danny, do you want to explain how these ultimate rankings work?
Yeah, basically, throughout the seasons, we've been keeping track of stats, including their offense, how much points they score on average, how many points they score on defense, their strength of schedules, which is compiled from based on all the teams they have played against, and what kind of conference they're in, how many points they allowed, their points per game, of course, their records, and how many AP votes they have gotten throughout the season. So we basically compiled all those together, and then from there we got these different rankings.
All right. At number 20, as I mentioned, we have Northern Illinois ahead of teams like Clemson, Mississippi State, and Washington State. That's a very interesting metric to see. Moving in beyond number 20, number 19, West Virginia, number 18, Pitt. Once again, both teams sewn at the hip, essentially. Number 17 is Florida. Your national champions didn't even make the top 10 on this list. Following them up at number 16, Boise State. Number 15 is Boston College. Number 14 is Duke. 13, Utah. Number 12, Wisconsin. Number 11, Auburn. Into your top 10. Number 10 is Michigan. Followed by number 9, Stanford. Number 8 is Baylor. Number 7, TCU. Number 6, UCF, your other national champions. Number 5 is Oregon. Number 4, Virginia Tech. Number 3 is New Mexico State. Number 2 is Penn State. And number 1 is Oklahoma State. All right, Danny, your thoughts on the metrics here?
Yeah, it was kind of a bit weird, but I guess it's what happens when your most dominant program throughout the season, Oklahoma State, chokes her in conference championship week.
For the second year in a row, I might add. Pig Bear?
Bull crap. We should be number 20. I mean, good job to Northern Illinois for getting number 20.
You are number 21. So.
You're number 21. You are the funny number.
The funny number.
If we can look it up, who had the bet? who had the best and worst of everything of every one of our categories here?
No, who had the funny
Yep.
number? The funny number.
Yep. So basically, the team with the best points per game was actually Virginia Tech. The team with the worst points per game was East Carolina.
The numbers there, if I can pull them up, Virginia Tech had plus 369. East Carolina had minus 242.
Right.
For the strength of schedule, number 1 was TCU.
That was a very difficult.
And looking all the way at the bottom was, surprisingly, a 10-plus win team, Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State was in a brand new conference, so that's fair.
Yep. The number 1 offense in the nation was Virginia Tech, followed by the worst offense in the nation, which was Lamar.
Lamar nearly went winless this year.
I mean, Lamar runs the ball every time. I'm kidding.
The best defense
He's more
was
running.
Virginia Tech.
How
They
these
had the
guys
best
going with the Natty?
because they croaked against Virginia in the final.
They didn't even make their
the
conference
worst-
Why
championship.
didn't we just vote him number 2?
You could have, but they didn't even play in their conference championship game.
Who cares? They're the best team in football. They would have won the national championship if they played either team.
But
Would
also
they
remember
have?
this: they barely had a decent strength of schedule.
They also lost to Washington, or almost lost to Washington State.
Your worst defense is Arizona. So
Yeah,
put that out there.
they had some pretty bad blowouts.
Yeah, Virginia Tech at the 127th strength of schedule.
Yeah, that's a pretty difficult schedule. Where did Florida, Penn State, and UCF fall on that list?
Yeah, when it comes to strength of schedule, Penn State is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here, just scrolling down on the list. Just give me 1 second to find it. Florida, it is currently ranked number 153rd, strength of schedule.
Oh, great.
So in all fairness, that is behind Vatech, but they still had a win ahead of them. And also, I saw UCF is number 96 on this list for strength of schedule.
Yes. And of
Yeah,
course, the team with the best record was UCF, and the one with the worst record was St. John's. 0-12 St. John's.
St. John's did go 0-12
Red Storm.
in their second year of FBS membership.
It's their time. I feel a natty run coming.
And
The
that
team with the most AP votes was Oklahoma State, and then the one with the least was basically every other team who didn't get votes at all.
all right, and that's
Okay,
going
Townsend
to
got an AP vote, guys. Remember that.
No.
Not officially, but
in
in my
spirit,
heart,
I guess.
in my heart they were. It didn't count.
Anyway, we're putting 2023 in the books now. Congratulations to everyone involved there. Now let's look ahead to the future. 2024 is a lot closer than you think. We have a stream coming up in April where we'll be revealing our schedules as well as the preseason top 25 in anticipation for the season's return. Well, we may or may not have some other special event streams in between, but for now, the season's over. So what do we have to look for next year? Well, starting with the ACC, we already have a huge change just coming in with Georgia Tech. The divisions will be redone, or will be done. There haven't been divisions before in the ACC. It's pretty similar to how they were in real life for the longest time. The Atlantic and Coastal will be the structure. Boston College, Clemson, Florida State, Maryland, NC State, South Carolina, and Wake Forest make up your Atlantic. Your Coastal is made up of Dave's Show, Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. Each team will have a protected rival, BC with Vatech, Clemson with Georgia Tech, Florida State with Dave's Show, Maryland with Virginia, NC State with North Carolina, South Carolina with Miami, and Wake Forest with Duke. Currently, the favorite to win the conference is, of course, Virginia Tech next season, followed by Clemson. Also, below that would be Virginia Tech, Clemson, followed by Boston College, Florida State, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Duke, and Dave's Show listed there. currently, according to this, the favorites would be to play in the conference championship Virginia, and I believe it would be Virginia and Virginia Tech would play for a rematch. Who do you guys like to play in the conference championship? Just looking at now.
Virginia Tech are both in the Coastal.
Oh, that's true. It would be Virginia Tech and Clemson. Sorry about that.
Yay!
But who,
Danny, go first.
I guess for my pick for the national championship
or the ACC championship?
for the ACC championship, I would have to say it would probably be. I'm actually gonna go wild and say Clemson. I think Clemson actually has a good chance of doing this.
All right. We'll move to the American.
Oh,
Pig Bear.
yeah, you Clemson, Virginia Tech. Clemson wins on a field goal.
All right.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Honestly, American, Jacksonville State will be leaving. The conference will be picking up Colgate, Holy Cross, and Rhode Island to their ranks. Charlotte, the reigning conference champs, are still there, and they're heavy favorites to take the conference, following with Kennesaw, Colgate, and Delaware. This will be the first year of the American Conference Championship. The top two teams will play in the title game. I think Charlotte plays Kennesaw and gets the win. Danny?
Give me. I'm gonna say it's either gonna be Charlotte or Kennesaw. I believe those two teams are gonna play in the conference championship game, wherever the game's gonna be. And the location haven't decided yet, but they'll play somewhere.
All right, Pig Bear?
UNC Charlotte versus Rhode Island, and UNC Charlotte wins.
Picking Rhode Island. Interesting. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the Big East Conference. A Big East that is going to look very new. No Rhode Island, no Boston College. In their place come UCF, Louisville, South Florida, and Cincinnati. Those four teams coming in. Give us a 14-team Big East. West Virginia is now the favorite to win the Big East next season, followed by Cincinnati, UCF, Louisville, Rutgers, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh on that list. Currently with the division structure, the favorites to win each division, I believe, would be West Virginia and Rutgers. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I actually like Cincinnati to have a good run. Now, UCF's losing a lot of their talent next year. Also, that head coach might be a prime target to be taken by someone else. Louisville's losing a lot of talent as well. UConn is continually fading. I think Cincinnati gets a win in their division, and they'll play against Syracuse for the conference championship. Danny?
It's gonna be kind of a bit tough, but I think it's gonna be either West Virginia, and I'm gonna still say my Knights are gonna win battle for the South against each other. For the North, I'm gonna say it's gonna be probably Syracuse against maybe Rutgers. Still, it's kind of a bit hard with the North considering they just lost their biggest brand.
All right, Pig Bear?
Which still means Big East. West Virginia, Connecticut.
You're just picking Connecticut to return.
I know.
All right, on to the Big Ten. The one change coming in for the Big Ten, adding Chicago and keeping no divisions for next season. The favorite to win the conference is Penn State, followed by Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Iowa, rising up boards, Notre Dame, and Purdue. I like to see Michigan and Penn State playing each other for a conference title. Oh, give me the Nittany Lions to repeat with a win over the Wolverines. Danny?
Yeah, I do think it's going to be Michigan, Penn State playing for the championship. But however, I think Penn State is going to win it.
I also think Penn State.
I think Michigan's going to win it.
Oh. All right. Pig Bear?
Ohio State, Indiana, embrace them out. Give me Michigan, Ohio State. I think it's Ohio State's year.
A double up.
Yeah, back to back. We should have seen this in the NFL this weekend, but I think Ohio State wins both games.
Ohio State, you never know.
Ohio State comes for the national championship.
I don't think that's going to happen. But
yeah.
On to the Big 12, completely new look for the conference, adding BYU, Houston, and BYU and Houston get to 14 teams. Oklahoma State, still your favorite to win. They still haven't won the conference in the Stream era. They went to back-to-back conference championships and lost both times. Baylor, still your runner-up. There will be divisions now in the Big 12, North and South. Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, BYU, Oklahoma, and Kansas State wrap out your top teams. I think Oklahoma State wins the South. They get another win against Baylor to slip in. I like Kansas to win the Big 12 North, though. Kansas is a very tricky team. We've seen flashes of them, and I think they finally crest the hill and make it to the conference championship game. Danny?
Yeah, this is gonna be a really interesting matchup. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Baylor gonna play against Kansas.
An old basketball showdown. Big Bear?
Give me Baylor versus Nebraska. I think 3 years in a row, the lightning doesn't strike for them, but I think Nebraska is their year.
All right. Now we move to the Conference USA that looks completely different this season. A complete overhaul of members with new blood coming in. Liberty joined this season. This was their first year in the Conference USA. They're sticking together here with Tulsa, as well as Memphis, Rice, Southern Miss, and UAB. Oh, East Carolina as well. Liberty is the favorite to win the conference next year. The UTSA is in second, followed by UAB, Memphis, Texas State, and UTEP. No divisions for the Conference USA this season. It'll be the top two teams. I like Liberty and UTSA to play for the conference title. Danny?
Yeah, I agree. I want to pick Liberty to win it.
I'll pick Liberty as well to take the title. Pig Bear?
We all three had the same prediction. Yeah, Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Liberty, 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 you could say.
Liberty, 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 Liberty.
No champions to talk about in the independents, but we will only have 3. Army and Navy still here, and a season for UGF as an independent. The Pandas coming up from the FCS. They played in the FCS semifinals this season, losing to Eastern Washington. On to the Ivy League now we go. Of course, no changes here. We do have the current favorite. It's expected that Columbia will three-peat, according to the odds, followed by Princeton, Harvard, and Yale. Your obvious contenders in the Ivy League. I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to pick Brown. Now, Brown is a team that's been building for years, and I think at some point they're going to finally make it over the hump and become an actual conference contender, and I think this is the year they do it. Danny?
For which conference again? Sorry.
The Ivy League.
It's gonna be either Columbia or Harvard that's gonna win it for me.
Pig Bear?
Dartmouth.
A right hook with Dartmouth.
I'm kidding. Yeah, Dartmouth. I'm gonna go throw a dartboard and hit Dartmouth. Dartmouth.
All right. To a 12-team MAC we go. A MAC that will be without without Youngstown State and Marshall, rather. This will move Bowling Green to the east.
Sad day for the Ohio Valley.
What?
No. I'm in the Ohio River.
The Ohio River.
Yeah, because Marshall in the Ohio River.
Bowling Green will be playing in the East Division. Not a favorite. They were one of the worst teams in the conference this year. The favorite is Akron in the preseason here to take the conference, followed by Kent State, Central Michigan, Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois, and Toledo on that list. I like Akron. I think they win the division, and I think who wins the conference will likely be Central Michigan, taking it over the Zips. Danny?
Yeah, it's gonna be really tough, but I think it's gonna be Central Michigan gonna play against Miami of Ohio. I'm gonna put that as my bet.
Pig Bear?
Central Michigan plays. Yeah, Miami of Ohio, but I think Miami of Ohio wins.
Onto the Missouri Valley, now without Now without Southern Utah and Utah Tech, but they'll be adding North Dakota back into the fold next season. In terms of divisions, I believe all the Dakota schools will still be in the same division with Wichita and Northern Iowa. So in terms of divisions, I think Southern Illinois wins back-to-back and gets it done against North Dakota State this season. The favorites are Southern Illinois, North Dakota State, followed by South Dakota State, Northern Iowa, South Dakota, and Drake. Danny?
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be trying to remember all the divisions off the top of my head, but I believe it's going to be Southern Illinois who's going to play against. I think it's going to be North Dakota State. Bison to win it.
All right, Pig Bear?
Give me the Salukis winning over North Dakota State.
We all got the same pick there. On to the Mountain West, which is now also at 12 teams. But these teams are new. One of the teams is not. Eastern Washington returns from the FCS. As once again, in a tumultuous 3 seasons it's been. But EWU, fresh off of FCS championship game appearance, look to finally insert themselves back into the college football FBS world. Joined by Cullen Payton from the WAC, as well as Fresno State, Nevada, and San Jose State are being added to the conference. I don't remember the divisions off the top of my head, but I do remember 2 teams in opposite divisions are Boise State and San Jose State. I have them in my conference championship. An old WAC matchup back once again. The favorites to win the conference are Boise State, Utah State, San Jose State, New Mexico, Fresno State, Nevada, and UNLV. Danny?
Yeah, for me, give me Boise State to play again. I'm going to say Fresno State.
All right. Pig Bear?
Boise State, Nevada.
Boise State, Nevada. The divisions there.
Nevada or Nevada?
And Nevada.
Okay, Nevada.
Now on to a completely redone Pac-10. The Pac-10 added 4 new schools in the offseason and became the Pac-12. Originally was the Pac-12 because they added Utah and San Diego State, but eventually they added 2 more teams and they decided to keep the original name that they changed it to. In terms of divisions, I believe this is how it would be. You have Washington and Washington State, Oregon State, Cal and Stanford back in the same division.
Notorious Atlantic Coast members, Cal and Stanford.
And joined in the North by Utah. That'll make things very interesting. As for the South, Arizona State and Arizona, joined by San Diego State, SMU, and TCU, new members this season, as well as old favorites USC and UCLA. I think Oregon wins the North Division, but I think it's close with Stanford and Utah right there. And as for the South, it's going to be pretty tricky, but I like TCU actually to steal the South away. Your current favorites are Oregon, Stanford, Utah, USC, Washington State, TCU, and UCLA. Danny, who do you have?
Give me Oregon to play against TCU.
All right, Pig Bear?
Give me Oregon to play against USC.
All right. Now to the SEC, which just had a very sudden change. Without Georgia Tech, they had to very quickly redo the divisions. In the North, you'll have in the East, you'll have Auburn now, joined by Florida, Georgia, Kentucky,
Like God
Tennessee,
intended.
and Vanderbilt.
I
Because,
think they're top.
sorry.
On the other side, the West is Alabama, Arkansas, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Tulane. I believe I had protected rivalries, but I don't have them at the moment.
Iron Bowl's protected.
Iron Bowl is protected, that's true.
There are no divisions.
Oh, no.
They haven't announced any protected rivals yet.
Oh, there are no divisions, that's right. No divisions,
I'm sorry
so...
for my Auburn outburst.
Regardless, The favorites currently are Florida, Alabama, Mississippi State, Georgia, Tulane, and Auburn. I like Alabama to go on a storm. The top 2 teams make it to the conference championship, and I think it's Florida and Alabama who play for the SEC. Danny?
Give me Bama and Georgia. That's what I'm going to pick.
Pig Bear?
Well, mine does involve a team from Alabama. Give me Auburn and a dark horse coming down from Nashville. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt forgot the lyrics of Vanderbilt fight. Sorry.
All right. I'll let
I
you have
know.
that. Now on to the SoCon, which is a 12-team conference this season. Adding in new members to the fold. Davidson and Wofford are brand new to the conference. They do lose a lot of members, namely App State and Georgia Southern. However, currently the favorites seem to be Old Dominion, James Madison, William & Mary, Washington and Lee, and Richmond to win the conference. I like a matchup between... I forget the divisions, if we have them even.
Virginia schools in the north.
Yeah, the Virginia division, then the South.
Yeah.
I think the 2 best teams will be James Madison and Old Dominion. Give me the Dukes to play against. Give me the Dukes to play against. We'll throw out a name here. Furman. Pick Danny.
Yeah, give me James Madison to play against. I'm gonna say Western Carolina.
Pig Bear.
Give me Old Dominion versus Furman.
All right. Now to the Southland. Southland abandoning divisions for 2024 with a bunch of members leaving. Their current look has Abilene Christian, Central Arkansas, Hardin-Simmons, Houston Baptist and Cardinal Word, Lamar, McNeese, Nichols, Northwestern State, Southeastern Louisiana, UT Arlington, and West Texas. Abilene Christian is currently the favorite to win the conference, followed by Central Arkansas, Southeastern Louisiana, McNeese State, and Houston Christian. I forgot they changed their name. I think the top 2 teams play each other. I think I like to see Abilene Christian against Southeastern Louisiana. Danny?
Yeah, give me a Abilene Christian to play against. I'm gonna go Boulder. Give me Central Arkansas.
Pig Bear?
Maybe Abilene Christian, Houston Christian. No, it's a little dark horsey, but
All right. All right, now to the Sun Belt. Sun Belt East. Sun Belt East completely changed this season. Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Georgia Southern, and then I believe Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky. Or I believe Georgia State is in the West. I don't remember the division entirely. But App State, Arkansas State, Coastal, FIU, Florida Atlantic, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, Jacksonville State, Louisiana, Louisiana Monroe, Middle Tennessee, South Alabama, Troy, and Western Kentucky make up your Sun Belt. I like to see...
got the East for us.
What was that?
I got the divisions.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. In the Sunbelt East, it's App State, Coastal, Georgia Southern, FAU, FIU, Middle Tennessee, and Western Kentucky. The West, Arkansas State, Georgia State, Jacksonville State, Louisiana, Louisiana Monroe, South Alabama, and Troy.
All right. With those divisions, I'm gonna like to see Coastal Carolina taking on the brand new team in Jacksonville State for the Sun Belt. The current favorites being Coastal Carolina, FAU, Jacksonville State, Appalachian State, South Alabama, Georgia Southern, Louisiana, and Troy. Pig Bear?
FAU Troy.
FAU Troy, a rematch.
Yeah.
All right. And now we wrap with the brand new Return of the Whack.
Return of the Whack.
I got my Sunbelt pick.
Oh, yeah. What's your Sunbelt pick?
Give me App State, Louisiana.
App State, Louisiana. Bold pick right there. Now we look at our WAC. A bunch of members left, but even more have just joined the conference. Currently playing in your currently playing in your West in this scenario, or your Pacific, or your Mountain. Sorry, in this scenario, can't really call it a mountain, but the divisions don't really have names at the current moment. Would be Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State, North Texas, Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton, and UTRGV. In your quote-unquote Pacific Division, I guess this is more apt, Cal State Fullerton, Hawaii, Idaho, Long Beach, Pacific are all joined by Southern Utah and Utah Tech. Last year's WAC championship was between Hawaii and New Mexico State, and I think we might have more of the same here. New Mexico State still looks very good. Still looks like a very good team. I like them to play against a dark horse here. Give me Cal State Fullerton to win the Pacific Division. Danny?
Give me New Mexico State to play against Idaho. I think that's gonna be a little fun matchup.
All right, Pig Bear?
You stole my pick, but I have to stick with it. I think this is Cal State Fullerton's year. Let's make a little bit of a run, make some noise.
Who are they playing against?
New Mexico State, my bad.
New Mexico State, the heavy favorites to win the conference, followed by Hawaii, Idaho, Louisiana Tech, North Texas, and Cal State Fullerton. And that wraps up your conferences for next season. And that's going to do it for this season. What a year it's been. Thank you all for watching all our streams this year. We're not going to be gone too long. We'll be back in April with the preseason video. Might have some other streams in between. Don't forget to subscribe to the main channel, Type A Joey 101, for somewhat more frequent uploads, and join the Discord for some fun in between. We got plenty of updates to do and an off-season to take care of. There's going to be some coaches moving around, some transfers that'll be pretty high profile maybe. So join the Discord for more of that. Any last messages you want to give to the fans before we sign off, Danny?
And with that, the 2023 season comes to an end. Good night, Tri-State area.
Pig Bear?
Stay tuned for high-flying things coming to CASN in 2024.
Plenty of high-flying action coming from our end here. I want to thank everybody for watching this season. It's been a blast. Can't wait to get back on the field in August. That's going to do it for us here. Thank you all for watching. And one last time so everyone can hear it, so long from the 2KU.